So, Mr. Flynn, are you,
I'm in the basement now.
like we can hear you better?
Okay. And the camera should work.
Well, there's still two screens up. One is,
I'll go shut the other one down. I shut the camera down. Did that change it?
well, we
up here.
can't see you, but we can hear you better.
I'm in the basement, so.
All right, well, let's just proceed. So, Mr. Flynn, you've filed three documents that you've labeled as exhibits, and I say documents, but actually it seems to be a compilation of a number of documents. Those are the exhibits that you intend to offer at this hearing?
Yeah, and I don't see my sheet with them all listed, which I gave them at the same time. And I gave two affidavits because of Mr. Schultz's complaint that it wasn't signed. I asked the clerk to, I signed it in front of the clerk, and they refused to stamp it. They refused to notarize it. What is going on here?
What I see is an affidavit
Separately. Dated yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, I wrote an affidavit because of Mr. Schultz's complaint about my previous affidavit, which was only 7 lines.
Okay. And your previous affidavit were the first few pages of the exhibit you were going to offer. Is that correct?
I offered 280 pages because it has the law for the absentee ballot, which I was denied access to. And then there's the other law for the petitioning candidate's signatures, which is a nightmare. These are all stolen property.
Okay. So now I just want to understand what you did. Now, what you didn't do, which I had asked for,
I probably did.
is, well, I said, I'm quoting from my opinion. By same date, Flynn shall file a pleading concerning the elements of the claims against Dixon asserted in his complaint that sets forth with particularity the circumstances giving rise to the complaint, to assist the court to understand alleged facts related thereto, including highlights of the statements in the article which he contends are false, articulates what is false or misleading about the statements, summarizes the reasons he considers those statements to be defamatory and cast them in a false light, identifies any alleged conduct by Dixon that inflicted emotional distress on Flynn, and a statement of the damages he allegedly sustained as a result. I don't see a document that...
I handed it to the clerk. I handed it on the 20th to the clerk. Now, I found out on the 22nd that it still hadn't been uploaded. That was the 20th was a Friday, I believe. So Saturday was the 21st, Sunday was the 22nd. The Monday, I called 7 times, which was the 23rd. Both Ryan Flanagan and Jonathan Brubar were out on the same day, and the stuff was sitting on their desk. I mean, and I'm denied electronic access. What, are you kidding me? I have 350 cases, and I'm denied access. Give us a break.
You have 350 cases in which you're a pro se party.
Correct.
All right. So, okay, so you're saying that you brought it to the courthouse for filing, and it hasn't been filed yet.
And I gave it to a lady named Amy, not Amy Michelby, an Amy I don't know, a younger Amy. I don't know her name. Her name is Amy.
All right. Madam Clerk?
This is an atrocious...
Pardon me, Mr. Clerk. Let me just see. Madam Clerk? Is there a clerk here on this call?
Your Honor, I believe her mic isn't working in the courtroom.
Okay, all right. So your mic's not working. Would you do a follow-up? You heard what Mr. Flynn just said about filing another document that summarizes his claim. Will you do a follow-up? and see if you can find that document. He
They
says,
keep returning them in the mail. Now, there's 6 people in my position. I know 6 people that are getting returned items in criminal cases, let alone...
so, Mr. Flynn, the clerk is following up on my request. Okay, so now you've both submitted affidavits, and you've both submitted exhibits. Now, this is not a special motion to dismiss. Is a special kind of proceeding. It's supposed to be summary. It's not supposed to be a trial on the merits. My request to both of you is I'm willing to review all the exhibits that have been filed by both sides and consider them on this motion without having to go through a more formal process exhibit by exhibit. And in particular, I know, Mr. Flynn, that you filed a number of myriad exhibits, which I'm prepared to review and consider. Some may or may not be relevant to your claim here, but you've offered them, and I'm willing to consider them. So, gentlemen, my question to you is, are you offering all the exhibits that you have filed? Mr. Schultz?
Yes, Judge, we are, and just for the record, I would like to know, we note in our memorandum that we object to all of the exhibits filed by Mr. Flynn, except for 2. He's filed among his exhibits 2 articles that were authored or co-authored by Mr. Dixon. We believe those are relevant and properly admitted. None of the rest of it relates to his claims against Mr. Dixon. They relate to other claims against other parties about his concern that he has been mistreated in getting access to the ballot. That has nothing to do with the case here.
It may or may not. And what I'm asking you, Mr. Schultz, is rather than going through a protracted process where relevance comes up, I can give weight. If it's a matter of weight, I'll review them and I'll give weight. Are you willing to have me consider and admit all the exhibits submitted by Mr. Flynn? Although I understand that you claim some are not relevant, and I'm willing to consider that in the weight I give an exhibit.
Certainly, Judge, you would need to look at them to rule on our relevance objections in any event. We have no problem with your reviewing them, understanding our position that they don't really relate.
Okay, but they would be part of the record of this proceeding. They would be, if I admit the evidence, that exhibits that are submitted, they're part of the record in this proceeding.
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Now, Mr. Flynn, Mr. Dixon has submitted an affidavit and has submitted exhibits as upload exhibits that are also exhibits to his affidavit. Are you similarly willing for me to consider those exhibits?
Your Honor, up till now, your performance is excellent. What I believe the affidavit of Mr. Schultz describes is that the Secretary of State provided evidence that was supposed to be sent to the town clerks to put me on the ballot. Now, his admission trumps his attorney-client privilege. I have a right to know everything he discussed with Ken Dixon, period. And according to his affidavit.
That's a separate issue. You've actually made some motions with respect to that. So we can deal with that a little bit later. But right now,
No.
Right now, sir, the exhibits have been offered, and my question to you is, do you object to the exhibits that were offered?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Because in my explanation.
No, you can object, and they're going to be offered one at a time.
Yeah.
And based on the affidavit, they've been authenticated in the affidavit. So I'll hear the objection to each and every
hold on.
I'll hear the objection to each and every exhibit. So, Mr. Schultz, you want to say some time? I'd love to hear that.
Okay, every exhibit that this attorney who's being removed from this case due to his affidavit, I should have a right. I really have no problem with his evidence at all. Okay, and actually, it just condemned them to an extreme. I mean,
so do you want me to consider the exhibits that he's put
if you think
forward?
it's important, yes, weigh the evidence and use your weight. Use the weight, and that's fine with me. But you need to understand that the weight of these stolen documents could put him in jail.
Mr. Flynn, that's an argument right now. Okay, so based on the stipulation of the parties, I'm going to admit the exhibits that were uploaded by defendant that are also exhibits to the affidavits that have been submitted. They're all exhibits in this action. Madam Clerk, do you you of course have access to the uploaded ones, also the affidavits that are submitted. I'll consider that as well. And with respect to what Mr. Flynn has submitted, I'm going to consider the affidavits that he submitted. One of whom was unsworn. Mr. Schultz, do you have a problem with my reading the unsworn affidavit?
No, I don't, Judge. And just to clarify the record too, I understand the clerk is checking to see if there's some additional material. It was unclear to me from Mr. Flynn's statement if he was saying that he had some additional material or just if the material he gave them, which is the first 12 pages of his first exhibit, is what he's talking about. To the extent there is something else, obviously we would want a chance to respond to it or review it before agreeing that it's admissible.
Well, that would have, as I understood it, that was his compliance with my request for a pleading that clarifies the positions as opposed to evidence. And of course I can, in the statute, of course, I can consider pleadings because this is a very unusual sort of proceeding. It's not like a normal hearing in some respects.
Your Honor?
Okay, according to the clerk, everything that was submitted has been scanned and filed, so in which case your compliance with my order would have been scanned and filed, so I will review that. Okay, so I'm admitting into evidence all the exhibits that have been uploaded by Mr. Dixon, and the exhibits, and also I'm going to consider the affidavits. I'm going to consider the affidavits submitted by Mr. Flynn, and I'm going to consider and I'm admitting the exhibits that were filed. All right. So that's the evidence in front of me. Mr. Schultz, you have the first burden of going forward to establish a prima facie case. Do you want to offer any other evidence?
I would like a moment to explain our position, but I have no further evidence.
Okay, well that's basically argument. I'll hear that a little bit later. Okay, Mr. Flynn, I've admitted the exhibits that you filed, and I'm going to review your affidavits, and I'll review both sides' pleadings, obviously, in connection with this. Do you have any additional evidence that you wish to submit?
I do. It's volumes. I have 57,962 signatures to submit, and there is not a single dead person on the list that I'm aware of. First of all, let me explain. Stephen Barrier was murdered. Okay? They think I have his signature. I have a father's signature. May I speak?
Mr. Flynn? Mr. Flynn?
Yeah.
If you want to testify, we'll swear you in as a witness.
Okay, fine with me.
But before we do that, I have a question for you. Before we swear you in as a witness, I have a question for you. So, the first time this motion was presented to me, it appeared to me, based on the evidence that was submitted in the pleadings, that there was only one article that you were focused on. And that was an article in the Connecticut Insider on August 25th, 2022. and the headline was, official, CT political candidate tried to use names of dead people to appear on ballot. Close quote. Is that the only article that you're claiming?
There's one on the 28th, which Mr. Schultz admitted into his evidence. Correct?
I believe there were 4 articles. Am I correct, Mr. Schultz?
There's actually 5.
We were able to locate, and we submitted with Mr. Dixon's declaration 3 additional, beyond the one we first submitted, that mentioned Mr. Flynn in the context of the election. That was all we were able to locate that were authored by Mr. Dixon, who is the defendant here. And those are all before the court now.
So, Mr. Flynn, you want me to consider those articles as well as the article that I referred to?
Yes, but I want you to take judicial notice that I ran as an independent, not a Republican, and all the things are wrong.
Okay, let's swear Mr. Flynn in as a witness, Madam Clerk.
Your Honor, her mic doesn't work.
All right, I'll swear Mr. Flynn in. Mr. Flynn, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Always.
Okay, state your name and address for the record, please.
John J. Flynn, running for U.S. Senate in Connecticut. I live at 31 Quintard Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut, 06853.
Okay, so, Mr. Flynn, you're now a sworn witness. I would like to understand certain things. I would like to understand what is there in the articles about which you've complained, which is false.
The entire circumstance is false. Now, in Mr. Schultz's admission, which is his affidavit, he says that Ken Dixon obtained these 50, I guess there's 50, I don't know. There's probably 100 signatures he forwarded to you, and none of those people are dead. How could they be dead if they answered my emails? First of all, I sent an email introducing myself, telling them what I was doing, and I got the person's name, and we sent a series of emails to people. So I later got their occupation. I had to get what necessary evidence, and there's a list of what you need to know about the person you are soliciting to put you on a petition. So the name and address is vitally important. I didn't have them. I never purchased those. I only purchased the email addresses. So to obtain the name, put it on the form that the state required. We hired a team of people, 8 or 10 people, more, 20 actually. We used 40 different email addresses that were seasoned to send 1.5 million emails out. We targeted independent voters, no Republicans, none. No Democrats, none. The independent party in Connecticut is 41% of the state, and the Republicans are 19, and the Democrats are 29. If I want to win an election as a Republican, all I need is the independent people who are undecided or unhappy with one party or the other. There's a lot of that going on. A lot of people are unhappy with both parties, which is fine. So I would expect that if I sent 1.5 million emails out, that I would get 57,962 interested people who say, hey, no one's ever contacted me before. The independent party has no structure. Zero. None. So getting an invitation to the ballot, which is a fundamental freedom as an American, you would expect that you wouldn't be sabotaged by Hearst Media Corporation, which is exactly what happened. So now, let me explain. The people that gave Ken the stolen records, which are fine, I don't care. Yep. I solicited them. Yeah, I didn't have to shake their hand during COVID. I followed Executive Order 7WW, the law itself. Mr. Schultz and the media empire Hearst is objecting to you reading the law. You understand? You look at...
Oh, no, I'm going to read the law. Now, let's get back to my question. So what were the statements in the article that you contend are false or misleading?
That I lost. They said I was disqualified. Really? From what? How do they know I was disqualified? They disqualified me themselves. I wasn't disqualified by the Republican Party. Ever. Who told them that? That's a lie. Telling the state of Connecticut that I was disqualified when I wasn't is damaging. Who the hell is he? I knocked doors for 4 years. I went to every fair in every town that I possibly could. I shook a million hands. I want $10 per hand. Because this is criminal. Yeah. It's a crime.
So, to the extent the article said you were disqualified either by the Republican Party or by the election officials, that's a false statement?
Correct, sir. And it impeded me from all debates. All. The League of Women Voters would not allow me to debate Senator Blumenthal because I solicited dead people, according to Ken Dixon. I am a member of the League of Women Voters. Okay? I've been a member for 4 years. I figured, hey, this would be a great way to help me get involved with the debates that they run. So here we go. I spent a substantial amount of time and money. I'm a partner at debateattorney.com, a turnkey debate system where with phone voter apps, they did a trial in 2020, a test run. I won. I ran for president in 2020. I ran for president in 2020. Guess what? The same thing happened. By the way,
these are the articles. These are the articles that were published. I think in. Let me go check my. August. So these are the August of what? 22 is it?
August 28, August 25, and there's three more.
Okay.
Now hold on.
So the articles you're talking about are August 25, 22, August 28, 22. What are the other articles?
One of the articles is years and years ago, where Ken Dixon wrote the same exact article about me and wrote it about the deceased friend of mine from Bridgeport, Connecticut, named Ethan Book. He said he was Don Quixote. He's called me Quixotic.
What year was that?
When he ran for U.S. Senate. When he ran for U.S. Senate against Blumenthal. He wrote the same exact article and cut and paste my name in it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that one of these articles, the one that mentions Quixotic,
Yep.
that you're saying that was a cut and paste of
Yep.
an article that was previously written about your friend in Bridgeport.
Right. He recently died of pancreas problems, you know. He died like a month ago.
Okay, so right now we're talking about 4 articles about you. So what is it that was in those articles that was false or misleading?
Well, the chair of the Republican Party called me and said, You're ruining the party. He hasn't spoke to me since. The last conversation I had was in August with him. The chair. He went to the State Central. Ben Proto went to State Central and told him I was a hack. I got zero votes, is what Ken Dixon said about the convention, which is not true. Not true.
So your name was put up at the convention for the Senate?
Correct. I was nominated and seconded. I had two excellent speakers stand up, and they knocked it right out. But Ben Proto instructed all these State Central people to back Themis, and every town, 169 towns, they were told to vote as a block. You couldn't stand alone and support Mr. Flynn. Period.
So in order to get before the state convention, did you have to petition to do that?
I had to be nominated at the convention, and I was.
You were nominated in second, and they voted.
And that's the process.
Okay, now let's go to the petition then. So these were your petitions to get on the ballot as an independent candidate?
Correct. Not a Republican. Even though I am a Republican, I figured 41 plus 19 is 60. With 60% of the state behind me, voting as lemmings, not knowing any of the issues, that I would stand to even attract some Democrats.
So the petitions that you submitted were rejected by state officials?
No. They were stolen and given to Ken Dixon. I gave them to Taffy Womack. She's a defendant in another case. I'm not supposed to bring that into it, except that she's the one. Ted Bromley got fired. Are you aware of that, Your Honor?
I saw that in your papers.
Okay.
With
Ahern fired. Okay.
Well, I'd like you to go back, though, about what was false in the articles, because that's what we're focused on right now.
What he did with the article isn't what he did at the debate. And it isn't what he did at the convention either. In other words, they had full court pressure locking a candidate illegally when they're supposed to be presenting the facts, the news. Hi, here's a guy from Norwalk running who's a Republican with the independent endorsement, which is 60% of the state, who has all Democrats working for him. There's not one person on my staff of 20 that is not a Democrat. Period.
So, Mr. Flynn, what was in the articles that was false?
The article said I was disqualified. Therefore, I am out of the game. Out of the debates. I went to Stanford, okay? They had a Lincoln dinner. I don't know if you're familiar with that. A Lincoln dinner is where they invite all Senate candidates, all gubernatorial candidates, all congressional candidates to speak. I walked in, a 6'5" guy put his hands on me and pushed me back. Okay? Ethan Book was alive and went to the same dinner. He was also discredited, and they threw him out on his ass.
So you were thrown out of the Lincoln dinner?
Correct. Because of right. And that happened all over the place. By the way, many times it happened. Not just once. But to have them put their hands on me because Ken Dixon wrote an article. Oh, you're the guy that put dead people on the ballot? No. Name one. He hasn't named one.
So you were excluded from other Republican gatherings?
Hundreds.
Not just the Lincoln dinner?
Hundreds of them. Hundreds. Not just more than 100. Count the ones I wasn't invited to speak at. Those are the people who nominated me at the convention and voted for me.
So, in addition to saying that you were disqualified, you say it's a false statement, also that you had dead people on your petition was a false statement.
Correct. There's more. I mean, Ken Dixon and his entourage, which he has, when you interview me, right, and I say I was the first whistleblower against Bernie Madoff, hey, that's material, wouldn't you think? I filed 200 cases against Bernie Madoff. Yeah, and guess what? The hedge funds that back the Democratic Party in the state of Connecticut back whatever Deb Bromley does and whatever Ken Dixon says, and they work together.
Okay, so in terms of getting back to the articles, what else was in the article that you say was false or misleading?
Read it.
Okay, well, I'm going to read your affidavits, and I'm going to read your
I want $10 million.
Well, that's not an issue right now.
Well, then give me 100.
Pardon me, Flynn, Mr. Flynn, just 1 minute. I've just got to clear my throat. Take a little sip of coffee here, excuse me.
Hold on. You know what I object to? The presence of David Schultz on this conversation. After he knew what they did, he turned over and he just blamed his own client for falsifying the Connecticut election for the entire U.S. Senate. That means we have 51 Democrats and 49 Republicans because of David Schultz, because of Ken Dixon. We would have a 50-50 margin, but we don't. Because Hearst...
Judge.
No, I'm sorry. You shouldn't speak. You're not here.
Well, you're objecting to testifying about extraneous matters?
Yes, and
I'm going to sustain the objection. Mr. Dixon, I'm going to go back, Mr. Flynn, I want to go back to the articles. Now, what I've got in terms of what you say was false in the articles was that you were disqualified, that there were dead people on your petitions. Is there any other thing about the articles that was false or misleading?
Every word.
Okay.
Now, here we go.
Well, I'm going to read the articles. I'm just asking you now to help me when I read the article to understand your claim.
Hearst Media has not said my name since I announced. Now, when a candidate announces, they announce everyone else's participation in the U.S. Senate race except mine. Okay?
Well, this is a question. So that really relates to
the absence of facts.
News.
Well, that's another claim. That's a claim. Suppressing news. Yeah, this is suppressing news. Give me another 10 million.
All right. Anything else that you say was false or misleading in the articles?
Yes. I have dinner once a week with Channel 12 for years. They come to my house every week. 6:30. Channel 12. Guess what? They put me on 30 times. And because of Ken Dixon, they put me on as a carpenter. They put me on as a plumber. They put me on as an electrician. They are not allowed to say that I'm a U.S. Senate candidate. Now, hold on a second. I'm on their news station 30 times. I should have been on the Norwalk Hour, the Stamford Advocate. Why? Because I'm from Norwalk.
So how do you relate that to what Mr. Dixon said in his articles?
They are dictating what is said, true or false. It can have no bearing. And you know what? The fact that I was running and my good friend at Channel 12 put me on at his risk. He thought he was risking his job when he was doing the right thing.
Well, Mr. Flynn, I keep saying Dixon because Flynn and Dixon are the two names in the front of my mind.
Very happy with you.
So, Mr. Flynn.
Yeah.
So, are you claiming that because of the articles, other media, including Channel 12,
Correct.
are not carrying news about your candidacy?
Correct.
Excuse me, let me make a note.
You can interview him. I'll bring him over. You can come over on Sunday night at 6:30 and have surf and turf with us. There's other things too, Your Honor. There's some more serious things I'm about to talk about.
Well, let me keep you focused on the articles now. With respect to so I understand that. So, have you finished telling me everything that was false in the articles?
No?
Okay, what else was false in the articles?
Okay. I went to the Secretary of State's office on August 3rd and I handed over those documents, right?
Yep.
And then they refused them all. Okay? Right? Then I went back on August 9th and they refused them all again. And I was threatened with arrest. Okay? Now the four people...
Secretary of State, I'm sorry, let me just make sure I got my notes here. So the Secretary of State, you were there when?
August 3rd, prior to the article.
Right.
August 9th, prior to the article.
Okay.
And August 10th, prior to the article.
And they refused your petitions?
Correct. Not on the 10th. They took them on the 10th.
Okay, so on the 3rd and the 9th, they refused petitions.
All.
But on August 10th, they accepted them.
Correct, but no receipt.
They didn't give you a receipt?
Nope.
Okay.
They wanted no proof. They would give me no proof that I gave them the 57,962 signatures.
Okay, so what was it about Mr. Dixon's articles related to that was false?
Well, Ted Bromley picked up the phone. Ted Bromley hates Trump, will not allow a single Trump supporter to be on the ballot, and it's in his letters that he approved, which I have, which I made exhibits. I made the Newington letter is in the evidence, okay? There's different towns.
You're saying that the statements in the articles about Mr. Bromley are false?
I'm saying the statements about Mr. Bromley are completely false, which is admitted in David Schultz's affidavit. He didn't realize what he was saying. He needs to be cross-examined. I need his deposition. This guy needs to go to jail along with the other people.
Okay, anything else in the articles that was false or misleading?
Yeah. Of course.
What?
Sorry, Judge, I was on mute. I object to those last statements, and I think they should be stricken.
Go ahead, strike.
They're baseless.
This is being recorded, and it is also on your own system being shown to the state of Connecticut as we speak, live.
All right, so Mr. Schultz, I understand your objection. I'm not going to strike them at this time, but I understand your objection. I'm going to overrule it, but I'm hearing what Mr. Flynn is testifying about. I will consider the weight. I will consider the weight of the testimony when I have all the record before me.
I appreciate that, Judge, and I understand what you're trying to do, but I also would like to note for the record our objection. Mr. Flynn is now making allegations and statements that aren't in his complaint, that aren't in his documents. He said they didn't raise these at the last hearing. This is a totally, inappropriate effort by him, but I just want to state that on the record.
All right, you made your statement. So, okay,
I was following the judge's order. His beautifully written 7 or 8 page response to the first Zoom call. Thank you, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Flynn, So what else about, there's statements about Mr. Bromley that you said were false in the article?
Correct. He started talking about Ahern. Ahern resigned. He actually got fired. Okay? Ahern is the Sikh enforcement guy. He's in charge with election enforcement, criminal activity. Okay?
If he was fired, it was subsequent to the article, correct?
Correct.
So
It was right after the article.
So at the time of the article, what was false about what was said about either Mr. Bromley or Mr. Ahern at the time the article was
They
written?
said they were criminally investigating me in his article, and I was arrested, which is not in the article, because they kept it out. That's a material misrepresentation.
So the fact that you were arrested and they kept it out of the article?
No. The article was August 28th. I was arrested on 12/15 or 12/16. They said they had a warrant for my arrest. They did not. All this stuff.
So that happened, excuse me, sir, that happened after the article, correct?
As a result of the article.
Oh, so you were arrested as a result of the article?
Well, if they threatened to arrest me and I was arrested, yes. They wanted to weigh. They didn't want to do it the day before the election. That would raise too many eyebrows. They waited for the election, made sure I was off the ballot. They took me off the ballot.
So
The stolen documents given
they
to.
said you're under criminal investigation. Do you claim that to be false and misleading?
I haven't been arrested by the Ahern. They told me it was because of Judge White, your friend, which is not true either. I have the conversations between Judge Randolph and Tamaccio, your prosecutor. I have them all. Ex parte communications, Lowy, Kavanowski, Clark. Give us a break.
Now you're going on something a little bit different.
Correct.
So let's go back to the article. So are you claiming that the fact that Ahern and Bromley said you were under investigation was false?
You know what? Ken Dixon is the DJ playing the records of the Democratic National Committee in a blue state where they want to bury Trump with false everything. You know what? I'm not going down with the ship.
Okay, so that's an argument, or that's a conclusion. I'm trying to get you back to understand, because at this point, just so you understand, and I tried my opinion to explain the law here. If they prima facie establish that you're suing Dixon because of exercise of First Amendment rights, then the burden shifts to you to show there's probable cause that your claims of defamation and false light, invasion of privacy, and emotional distress, that there's probable cause that you will prevail on that. So that's why I'm asking these questions, because I want to understand your claims, and I want to understand what you have to back up the claims relating to the articles.
Here we go.
I mean, you may have all sorts of other things going. You said you had 350 cases in which you're...
No, I mean over time. There's only 5 right now.
There's only 5. But anyway, I want to focus on what's before me, which is, I understand, 4 articles at this point. So, and I want to understand 2 things, and you've been testifying about it. I just want to get you back on track on that.
Very good.
What you consider to be false or misleading, and how those false and misleading claims have damaged you. And you testified about a number of things, which I have notes on.
But let me speak. I left the Secretary of State's office when they threatened to arrest me. I went straight across the street. I spoke to the state police across the street in New Haven. I'm in Hearst, excuse me. Evan Goddard. I handed him an 8-page complaint about what happened in the office, and they claimed to be investigating And when they arrested me, the discussion was about what happened at the Secretary of State's office, not about Judge White.
So that relates to your arrest. I want you to get back, if you could, to the articles that you claim defamed you and cast you in a false light and caused you emotional distress.
Okay.
What about those articles
Okay.
was false, misleading, or caused distress?
Sure.
And how you've been damaged? That's what I would like you to testify about.
Sure.
Do you know
who T.J. Elgin is?
He ran for Congress.
No.
Okay.
Okay. The same thing happened to him.
Well, but that's that, and Mr. Elgin, if he was here and it was part of this case, we might hear from Mr. Elgin. But right now,
It's a pattern. It's a pattern called racketeering. It's racketeering.
I want to hear from you. What is false or misleading in the articles, and how you've been damaged by that?
Okay. Have you heard of Thomas Gilmer? He ran for Congress. He was falsely arrested days before the election.
Okay,
guess what?
Hold on.
He pled not guilty. I'm pleading not guilty. T.J. Elgin pled not guilty. Ethan Book pled not guilty.
Okay, so you're back to your...
No. You don't understand. If you run for election and you're vocal, you get arrested.
Okay,
by
Mr. Flynn, do you have anything else to tell me about these 4 articles?
Yeah, we could talk for a week.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk for a week. But I want to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else about those articles that you claim to be false or misleading, cast you in a false light, caused you emotional distress? I'd like to hear that.
Yes. Consider that in the state of Rhode Island, as an example, no one runs from the Republican Party anymore because they've been beaten down. Okay? Why run in the state of Connecticut if you go out and get 50,000 signatures and they don't put you on the ballot when you only need 5,000? Why would you go to the length of spending $2 million or $10 million?
Mr. Flynn, can I take it, since you haven't responded to my questions, that there's
No.
nothing else about the articles that you consider
You can't take it. This is my evidence. It's false and misleading.
You're going off on matters that don't relate to the narrow issue in front of me.
Where's Ken Dixon? Where's Ken Dixon? This guy doesn't know anything about Ken Dixon.
All right, Mr. Flynn. Do you have anything else to tell me about the articles? Anything else about the articles that you consider to be false, misleading, or caused you emotional
Yes, let's get back to Ahern. We didn't even discuss it.
What about the statements about Mr. Ahern in the articles caused you is false or misleading?
I contact Ken Dixon once a week for 4 years. Did he tell you that?
What about Mr. Ahern in the articles was false or misleading?
They said I'm under criminal investigation for signing up dead people. And Mr. David Schultz has not produced a single dead person thus far. Because it's impossible to produce a dead person. It's impossible to harm a dead person.
Okay, so what about statements about Mr. Ahern were false in the articles?
Dead people.
Oh, the statement that was attributed to Mr. Ahern, when you say was false.
Correct. And he published it knowing it was false. Because it can't be true. It's impossible. By the way, there are 223-year-old people in Connecticut on the voter rolls that are active. I can provide you with a list of hundreds of them today. And actually, part of that list is in my exhibit, my evidence. Because I want to prove to you that dead people are voting.
Okay, with respect to Bromley, did I get his name right? Is it Bromley?
Bromley.
With respect to Bromley, what were the statements in the article that you claim were false?
There are 20,000 dead people on the voter roll. Okay?
That's what Bromley said in the article that was...
No, that's what I've been telling Bromley, and he decided that I was too much like Trump to be on the ballot, though I ran against Trump, which is absurd.
What was in the article that was attributed to Mr. Bromley that you think was false?
Everything about Ahern is false. Every single thing. I'll tell you why. One of my signers of my petition is a blind lady named Elizabeth Greenwood. You can call her right now. I'll give you her number. She met with me in Hartford at a baseball game for the blind.
Mr. Flynn, I'm not following what you're talking about. What was it about Mr. Bromley that was in the articles that was false or misleading?
Mr. Bromley is assuming that live people are dead, though he spoke to Andrew Pritchard, who you know. You know Sam Magliari, and he's assuming he's dead. Why? Because his signature was blocked from the ballot, intentionally removed from the Secretary of State's office, and circulated instead of being processed.
So is this part of your claim? And I'm remembering your statements.
He's saying Heather Lindsay's dead. You know why? You know why they're saying Heather Lindsay is dead?
So what you said the first time at the first hearing when you were making an argument, you said that one of the things that Dixon did wrong was he accepted what he was told by Bromley and Ahern without doing an investigation. Is that your position?
That's part of it. But he knew it was false because he spoke to Kate Wall, who's one of the people in the list on David Schultz's affidavit that is mentioned. Really? Now she's a witness. She's coming. I'm subpoenaing her. She's a very nice lady. I spoke to her 5 times. She's too afraid to come forward with the facts because she doesn't want to be overdosed or whatever they do to these people. This is a criminal enterprise.
What's the woman's name again, please?
Kate Wall. She's in the affidavit of David Schultz. She's coming in. Ada Carini. Her phone line was disconnected at the Secretary of State's office months ago, right after she threatened me. You know what? Why is the Secretary of State threatening people who show up with petitions that they don't want on the ballot?
Okay, so Mr. Flynn, have you exhausted what it is about the 4 articles that were false and misleading and casting a false light?
Everything Ahern has done. I tried to explain how a blind woman was assaulted, and you cut me off.
Mr. Flynn, I don't know that you've got any other evidence about false or misleading statements in the articles, but I would like you to tell me if you do, and focus on the articles.
I sent you how many videos for judicial review? How many?
All right.
More than 10? More than 10. One is David. One is a video of me talking to Bromley. Did you watch that? Did you watch me talking to Ada Carini on the video?
Mr. Flynn, have you finished your testimony?
No. Absolutely not. To answer the question, did you look at the videos I asked you to look at for judicial review?
Did you finish your testimony?
Of course not.
All right. Okay. Well, unless you have something else about the 4 articles, I believe you have finished your testimony. So do you have anything else about the 4 articles that you believe were false and misleading and cast you in a false light? Again, I want you to focus on the articles.
Yeah, focusing on the articles. I was cast in a false light. Hello. Yeah. That's obvious. Since I was falsely arrested. By the way, you know what they accused me of in the arrest warrant?
Well, you just told me that the arrest happened in December.
Yeah.
And you haven't provided any evidence.
Okay. They threatened. Hold on.
The articles.
Due to Ken Dixon's articles, they claimed I had a firearm and I threatened 5 judges. Are you aware of that?
Was there anything in the article about your having a firearm and threatening judges? I believe I read.
Well, it certainly doesn't mention that I don't own a firearm, does it?
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Flynn, I think basically, for purposes of this hearing, I've got your evidence. I've got the exhibits that you've submitted. I'm going to review those. I'm going to review your affidavits. Mr. Schultz, I take it you don't want to cross-examine?
I do not, Judge,
Of course not.
because
All
the
right.
record is clear that
Well,
I do want an opportunity to respond, though, to make our arguments and lay them out.
Let's get to the argument stage. Now, the way this works, as I mentioned, is Mr. Dixon has got to show that there's a prima facie case that he's being sued because of his exercise of First Amendment rights. And then Mr. Flynn, if Mr. Dixon shows prima facie that he's being sued for exercise of First Amendment rights, then Mr. Flynn then has the burden of showing there's probable cause to believe he'll prevail on his claim. And I also have to consider defenses on that. So, Mr. Schultz, would you please argue both as to prima facie and as to probable cause? And then, Mr. Flynn, you'll get a chance to argue as well. Go ahead, Mr. Schultz.
Yes, Judge. On the question of whether the anti-SLAPP statute applies, it clearly does. Mr. Dixon is sued here for acting as a journalist, exercising his First Amendment rights as a reporter to publish stories on a matter of public concern. There's no dispute here that Mr. Flynn's efforts to get on the ballot and his efforts to run in various campaigns for election in the state of Connecticut are matters of public concern. There is ample case law that reporting on these things is exactly the type of First Amendment activity that the Anti-SLAPP Act is addressed to, and it clearly applies. And I'd like to turn then to the plaintiff's burden here. And first note, just to be clear, the statute requires two things of plaintiffs. The first is that he provide a clear and particularized statement of his claim, which he hasn't done. That is part of the statute. And the second is that he show that that claim has a likelihood of success, that there is probable cause or probability that he can establish the existence of a claim. When we initially moved, it was our position, and it remains our position, that he fails to make that, on the face of the articles themselves, that the complaint, the allegations in the complaint of falsity are not borne out by the articles. That the articles show is that he was reporting on comments made by public officials that Mr. Flynn has conceded were accurate, again this morning, and therefore there can be no claim, both as a matter of defamation law. It's not a publication by Mr. Dixon to repeat something that someone else said on a matter of public concern, where he's not adopting it as own, he's just reporting it as news. And even if it were considered a publication by Mr. Dixon, the First Amendment protects that. This is a newsworthy matter. The public has a right to know about it, so that there is no claim. And again, Mr. Flynn has confirmed this morning, although it's quite apparent that he is unable to understand certain basic facts, that he confuses things, that the record that he has made is clear, that every statement in the article, the primary article at issue here, is accurate. The article reports basically that Mr. Flynn was attempting to get his petition his way onto the November ballot, that voter registration officials said that his ballots included the name of dead people, and that those petitions were now under investigation by the Secretary of State. Mr. Flynn has confirmed that this morning, that Mr. Ahern said that various things have been done. The record before the court shows that those statements are also true. I think it's exhibits L and M to Mr. Dixon's affidavit confirmed that there was a Secretary of State investigation and that it was looked into. So this is a classic case of Mr. Flynn, trying to shoot the messenger. Mr. Dixon isn't verifying these things. He's informing the public of what happened. And as a matter of defamation law, he has no claim. That is also true of his other two claims, both the emotional distress claim and the false light claim. The false light, there's no claim if there's no fundamental falsity, which there isn't here. But as to matter of both causes of action, the simple reporting of the news is not, as a matter of law, outrageous or actionable under either of those torts. So on the admitted facts, he has no claim, he has no probability of success, all apart from the fact that he's still yet never fully clarified his claim. I'll rely on our declaration, our memorandum, the two memorandum that are before the court lay this all out in detail. There are other grounds for the deficiency of both of his claims that will rest on our things there. I just want to say one other thing, that there, this record establishes that Mr. Flynn really just confuses things. He said several times today that I've admitted certain things that are somehow actionable, that I have knowledge, that I've become a witness. He's misreading my affidavit. My affidavit, I'm just pulling it up here so I can have it exactly in front of me. Paragraph 4 of my affidavit recounts the fact that at the last hearing, contrary to the court's order and the rules of the court, Mr. Flynn videotaped it and then posted the whole hearing on YouTube. And my affidavit recounts various things that Mr. Flynn said during that hearing on March 6th that are admissions that prove he has no claim. And it included his claim that false information published by Dixon was provided to him by Ms. Wald, Mr. Bromley, Ms. Carini, and Mr. Ahern. That was his allegation. That it appears at about 41 minutes into the videotape he posted. And he also alleged that around 48 minutes into that videotape that the state wrote to Ken Dixon saying, "I contacted dead people." Well, he now reads that declaration as though I have knowledge and that I've admitted that Ken Dixon did something wrong. All I've admitted in my declaration is that Mr. Flynn has stated those as facts and therefore should be deemed admitted against him. I haven't said anything about my client. And Your Honor, the same fundamental confusion is at the heart of this claim. Mr. Flynn says that Ken Dixon was circulating information and doing all these things and causing the town clerks to do things because he apparently is just misreading the material he was sent by Mr. Dixon. In Exhibits E and G, I believe, are emails that were sent by Mr. Dixon contemporaneously when all this was going on to Mr. Flynn, forwarding a letter that was being circulated by Mr. Bromley asking Mr. Flynn for his comment. And because Mr. Dixon forwarded that letter, Mr. Flynn is now running around saying Ken Dixon was telling people to do these things. He just fundamentally misunderstands and doesn't get it, or is affirmatively misstating the facts. This case is frivolous. You've had the patient of Job in hearing him out, but Mr. Flynn is abusing the court and the court processes. He is inflicting costs that are unnecessary and burdens on Hearst, and it's time to call this to an end. And we would respectfully request that the motion to strike be granted and that Hearst be awarded its fees for having to respond to this frivolous complaint.
Okay, Mr. Flynn, you want to make an argument?
Yeah, legal privilege is allowing attorneys to lie in their remarks. Period. It's a fact. And that's what just occurred. Now, if you look at the $50,000 bond I had to put up, and the fact that I was accused of threatening in the first degree, when the prosecutor walked up to the judge and said, "Mr. Flynn is a conspiracy theorist. He thinks that the election wasn't thrown," when in fact I can prove I was never put on the ballot, getting 11 times the signatures I needed to simply be put on the ballot. So the prosecutor in the Stanford Superior Court spoke to Judge Blowy. He had ex parte, I'm allowed to speak. He had ex parte communications with Judge McShane, and now I'm in Bridgeport.
Would you go back to this hearing, please?
I am.
And the matters
I'm
that
on
are
this
in
hearing.
front of me?
You think they're unrelated?
Guess what?
Guess what?
Well,
Don
you haven't
Quixote.
related them. You haven't related them to the 4 articles.
Okay,
that
here I
you
go.
complained
You
about
ready?
From Dixon.
You ready?
Go ahead.
Have you read Don Quixote? Sanchez tells Don Quixote that those are windmills, that he's not fighting giants. In other words, a guy's crossing the desert, sees a windmill, and imagines it's a giant. That's what quixotic means, out of his freaking mind. And you know what? Believing in Christ is not a conspiracy theory. Okay? Fine. My point is, this election was stolen. Fact. The largest party in the state didn't have a candidate. Hello. Fact.
Mr. Flynn, you may be addressing a different audience on YouTube. I don't know. But please confine your arguments to the matters that are in front of me, which are your claims related to the
With all
articles
respect,
written by
don't
Dixon.
don't disrupt me. Let me finish.
Well, I have to, Mr. Flynn, bring you back to what's in front of me. I know there's lots of things on your mind. You've got other cases that you're concerned with. Not before me right now. What's before me right now are your claims related to the the articles that Ken Dixon wrote. So if you could
Because he was instructed
those articles,
because he was instructed
claims
to.
and your damages.
Let's be clear. Ken Dixon was instructed to destroy any opposition to Richard Blumenthal. After all, within 10 minutes of 8 o'clock on election day, he was declared the victor with one town reporting. One small town. And he was behind. Leora Levy had 52% of the vote when Richard Blumenthal was pushed through. So guess what?
Mr. Flynn, if you don't have any arguments that pertain to the matters in front of me, I'm going to call this. Hearing.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
Well,
that's not fair.
I'd like to hear your arguments.
I'm giving my argument.
Well, no, you're arguing about things that are not in front of me.
You're saying.
So, what I want to know, what I want you to argue about, is how you plan to win. What's the evidence that shows that you've got probable cause, which means a rational basis for the claims you made against Mr. Dixon relating to the articles that he published, which you claimed were defamatory, cast you in a false light, caused you emotional distress. That's really what I want to hear you argue about. Now,
I was saying A.
Okay, go ahead.
That's clear. I was put in a false light. I suffered emotional distress. I went to jail. I had to post 50 grand. You have 50 grand sitting around? I have to go in front of McShane, who just arrested Sam Magliari for the 11th time illegally. The last 5 arrests. Totally illegal.
Are you claiming that the articles written by Mr. Dixon caused you to be arrested?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
Why else would I be arrested? You're the judge. By the way.
Were you investigated by the Secretary of State's office?
No. I wasn't. They did not call me. They did not call me. What else do I need to say? If I was under investigation, they would have come to my house with 70 cops.
So your argument to me is that the articles written by Ken Dixon caused you to be arrested in December.
Correct.
Okay, I wrote that down. Go ahead, what
Well,
else?
hold on. If I was a candidate, right, on the ballot, and I was arrested 2 days before the election, would that be newsworthy, Your Honor? If I was in lockup,
All right, Mr. Flynn. Mr.
no, this is exactly what happened.
This
This has happened.
All right. Okay, Mr. Flynn, I've heard your
I'm not
argument.
finished.
I'm gonna read the papers that you've submitted. I'm gonna read your
not
pleadings. I'm gonna read your affidavits. Mr. Flynn, this is not a forum for you to discuss.
You can be,
many
you know who
different-
has his head in the sky? Mr. Schultz. I'm a practical scientist. I was a biotechnology analyst. I know all about vaccines, and that shot ain't no vaccine. It's not an inoculation, and he's been shoving it down our throats. Give us a break. Give us a break.
Mr. Flynn, I'm gonna take this matter under advisement. I'm gonna review the evidence submitted by both parties. I'm gonna review the submissions, the affidavits, the pleadings. I'm gonna look at the pleadings. I'm gonna read the briefs and the law that was submitted, including the law that was submitted by Mr. Flynn in his papers, and then I will make a decision.
Why
So I'm gonna reserve-
is
I'm
the
gonna reserve
prosecutor,
decision.
why is the prosecutor talking about the election fraud
All right.
to the judge?
So, Mr. Schultz, I know you want to say something, but I'm not going to hear it. I'm gonna adjourn this proceeding.
I was just accused by Mr. Flynn as he started his last meandering
Yeah,
monologue
but this is
of
not,
lying.
this is,
Yeah.
yeah, but Mr. Schultz,
Your pants are on fire.
this is not the time to go back and forth on that. There are some pending motions. That's another issue, but it's not an issue I have to reach right now. Okay, so, in terms of this hearing, we are adjourned. Thank you, for the additional information that I said I needed and I did need. And I will, reserve on this matter, and I'll give you a decision expeditiously, which, means in 120 days, or within 120 days.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
we are adjourned.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. I know that was long. I thank you for your time and efforts if you do follow this, and it's extremely important that you do. Unfortunately, we are in a good versus evil battle, and there is no denying it. Thanks again.